In fact, let me get in an Indian with whom we traveled. It was a lovely journey with you. But among a lot of other Indians who are leaving Kiev, we saw you coming back from New Delhi back to Kiev. Tell us why.
Because I've been living in Kiev for the last 30 years and my family is there, children are here. Yeah. So when everyone is going home, so I've returned to my home to be with my family in these pressing times.
You have been here for 30 years. You understood what really happens, the kind of messaging that has been done by the Russians, how the Ukrainians are essentially responding. Do you believe, as someone who's been among the community here, do you believe that the Ukrainians are really surprised or they were expecting this to come?
Okay, the war in reality has been going on for the last 8 years now. So Ukrainians are used to it. And there comes a time when everyone, is willing to say, okay, whatever happens, let it happen. So people, they expected and they didn't expect because very close cultures. Right.
You see that there is some amount of preparedness because you were here just about a week ago. You left for Delhi about a week ago. Yeah. So what's the kind of preparations that you've essentially done? What are the kind of responses that you're getting from your Ukrainian friends, your business community?
Yeah. Most of my friends, they have taken up arms. They are buying arms, right, and they are getting ready to defend their country, their soil, their culture and their world. So people are ready for that. Of course, they don't want war. Yeah. No one wants war, and Ukraine wants peace. But if war comes, then Ukrainians are going to face it with a very bold, mind.
A bold face. Also.
Yeah, bold face.
It's really heartening to see someone who's worked here for almost 30 years, instead of leaving the country, is coming back. There are Indians that we've heard, stories of various Indians who have been in other parts of Ukraine, who have essentially indicated that they are willing to be part of this war which may or may not even break. But the fact of the matter is that for many Indians who have been living here, they perhaps in solidarity with the Ukrainians want to come together and send across a very strong message that they're going to fight along with the Ukrainians. You've had one example, and perhaps in the days to come, as we report from various parts of Ukraine, we'll get you many such stories. The real story of what's really happening in the areas, in the border areas. How exactly is Ukraine responding to the aggression that has been shown by Russia? All this will be on Republic TV as we get you a 360-degree picture of this conflict here in Ukraine.
Absolutely. Shravan, before we let you go, and I believe you'll be traveling all across Ukraine, and especially those breakaway regions that have now been recognized as independent territories by Vladimir Putin as well. That, of course, has been the biggest headline as far as this ongoing conflict is concerned. We'll also want to understand from you what's happening at the border areas over the course of the next 2-3 days. But Shravan, as for the Indian community there is concerned, a tough situation. Certainly, some of the students are now coming back. As for India's take here is concerned, we're also finding ourselves in a tough spot, isn't it, to go with Ukraine or to go with Russia. For now, India has taken a neutral stance. In fact, India at the UNSC emergency meet also said that we want for now that de-escalation takes place, situation comes under control. The Indian community there, what is the kind of reaction that they've been sending out, the kind of response they've been giving out?
Okay, Krithvi, let's look at the two parts that you've asked. One is what happens to the community. We got you a voice right now. The same person who went back to Delhi a week ago is now back in Kiev. So there are several such Indians, especially those who've been largely part of the industry, the business community here. You've had Mr. Sharma, who was basically part of the prosthetics industry here in Ukraine. They are saying that, look here, this war has been lingering for a very, very long time. The fact of the matter is that this aggression only works for the Russians, and that is the reason why they believe that this war is not going to happen. Now, that's just one perspective. May not be really true on the ground, because the fact of the matter is that how exactly is going to Russia going to look into it? You've had exceptionally aggressive speech that was made by Vladimir Putin, and someone who's made it very clear that Russians and Ukrainians are one. You remember that essay that was basically written by Vladimir Putin, and that essay was put out by the Kremlin late last year. In that there was a clear reference of that one culture of Russia and Ukraine. And all of that put together, is that really going to make that a huge difference on the ground? We'll have to really wait and watch, because the fact of the matter is these breakaway regions are going to be key to the future of this particular conflict, because the sense that we get here right now is that this was pre-decided to a great extent. There are several academic papers which have already indicated that when it comes to the Donbas region, that region in itself was perhaps the precursor to what many would say the reason why Russian President Vladimir Putin might essentially show the reason why they're retaliating, or the invasion of Ukraine particularly. Now, coming back to your question with regards to the Indian community, yes, there is a large number of students, especially students with several medical universities who've decided to go back, and that is the reason why one Air India flight that was basically that flew in earlier in the day would be taking back roughly about over 300 to 400 Indians, and that flight perhaps is going to repeat for the next 2 days, is what we are being told. Indian Embassy has already issued guidelines as far as if it is essential, only then stay back in Ukraine. Otherwise, they are advising all Indians who are staying here in Ukraine to leave for India. Evacuation plans, at least the commercial flights, are essentially on. But how are things going to really change? Because remember, Krithvi, this particular country, you are talking about the size of Texas. Now, this country divided into multiple parts. The northern part, which is closer to Belarus, where we have seen a massive build-up by the Russians. The 10-day military drill has been extended. That has widely been seen as the United States as yet another provocation by the Russian side. Then you go down southeastern side. That's basically the Donbas region, the Donetsk and Luhansk, where we have seen the kind of shelling that has taken place. The conflict has just only intensified, and with Russia now recognizing the independence of Donetsk and Luhansk, perhaps things are going to be very, very different in the days to come. And whether at all Ukraine is going to really react to it is something that we'll have to wait and watch, because that perhaps is going to change the narrative. What we are essentially trying to do right now is give you the real sense, because the US media has largely been accused of fanning this entire fear of a war. Many would say they have been warmongering, the kind of dates that were already issued by the US Secretary of State. Russian side, if you see the Russian media, on the other hand, said that this is complete propaganda by the US media, the US state authorities, and Russia still sticks to the stand that there is no question of any invasion. What we will do in the next few hours as we travel out of the Kiev airport, I promise you to get you some of the ground reports so that you get the real picture of what's really happening in Kiev, and then we'll move around the other parts of Ukraine to get you a sense of what's really transpiring on the ground.
Oh yes, we'll let you go for now, Shravan. Thank you so much. Shravan Sen joining us from the Kiev airport just after landing there. The only Indian channel reporting live from Ukraine. Shravan, we'll keep coming back to you to get a sense of what's happening on ground zero for the moment. Thank you very much.